Gab, let's start with the celebrations because we saw the Barca players being very happy, of course, winning the title at Espanyol as well. So in the derby against the city rivals, even if they're not really rivals. And they did this like dance in the middle of the pitch, like holding hand. I mean, I don't know. I find it weird, but I can understand you celebrating. But let's remind everybody there were no Barcelona fans were in the stadium, and then obviously they wound up so much, the Espanyol fans, especially the ultras, that some of them came onto the pitch and the Barca players had to rush into the dressing room, but in fear really. And you had an issue with them celebrating before even the ultras coming on the pitch.
Yeah, look, I mean, let's be very, very clear on this, right? This is not a case of the ultras being in any way justified for coming on the pitch, right? You come onto the pitch, especially in that menacing way. Fortunately, nothing happened. I don't know if even one guy came in contact with one Barcelona player, staff member, right? But those people, they should be identified and they should be prosecuted. It's simple as. You cannot do that, right? So, but equally, I kind of felt, and the dance they did where they all go around, and that's a traditional Catalan dance. They do. What got me is in this situation, and I tweeted it was tone deaf, and I'm raising the ire of the Barca sphere. But Xavi basically said what I said. Xavi celebrated at the final whistle, hugged some of his players, pumped his fist in the air, and then he went down the tunnel. Because he understands, he's from Barcelona, he understands the context, he understands there's no point in rubbing Espanyol's noses in it. Not when you have this imbalance of power. Xavi probably has friends who are Espanyol fans, because guess what? Like, a big chunk of the city is Espanyol fans. Yeah. This isn't Rangers and Celtic, right? As much as they try to make it out, like this is a different kind of rivalry. And I don't think any Barcelona player wanted to go and humiliate Espanyol. I would really, really hope not. No, because if you're going to do that, pick on somebody your own size, right? Not this club with these atrocious owners who are on their way to the second division. But equally, I just think it's weird, and it's a sign of the times. And there's a backstory to this, obviously, about why no Barcelona fans were there, which is this back and forth tit for tat between the two clubs. I actually think Espanyol are probably a little more responsible here than Barcelona in terms, but regardless. But it seemed like it went on for a very long time.
Yeah.
And it just seemed weird. You celebrate with your fans, right? Like, I know it's on TV, I know, and they're not there. But you know what? Your fans are a couple miles away in Canaletas, right? You can do it there. Yeah. And so what Xavi said, and I'm paraphrasing here, like, it wasn't the time to be out on the pitch.
If it'd been the last game of the season, maybe you understand a bit more. This is the last time they're all together. Busquets is going to leave, blah, blah, blah. But, it felt disrespectful for the
and so, like, to be clear, I'm not saying that you can't celebrate the title. Of course, you can celebrate on the pitch, the way Xavi did.
Yeah, exactly.
But then, and to see all those staff members join in and whatever, I don't know if it was... Maybe they should have talked about beforehand.
Should Xavi said something? So when Xavi saw that it was, starting to like say like, "Hey, come inside," and
there were reports that Xavi did send word out there. I have no idea if it's accurate because you know how it is. There's a paranoia between this. There's a Madrid press and a Barcelona press, and they go after each other. Probably beforehand they should have said, "Guys, if we win the title here, high five, group hug." And then we go in the dressing room, we uncork the champagne, and then we go to kind of like this with our fans or whatever, right? Yeah. I think probably that's what they should have done. I think in those more sensitive situations, because Espanyol felt humiliated. And it's not, I know it's not what Xavi wanted to do. It's not what Barcelona wanted to do. Yeah. That was just the outcome.
Did you like Laporta celebrations going in like in the dressing room? Didn't really look too comfortable at running or anything like that?
Look, I mean...
It's a victory for him. He took over. It's true. He took over in a difficult situation. We said.
I think the biggest thing with Laporta you can say is he chose the right guy in Xavi. And that wasn't to be taken for granted because let's not forget, Xavi hadn't backed Laporta in the previous election, right?
No.
So there was some sense, like, are they close? He was able to convince Xavi.
I mean, he couldn't have done worse than the Dutch guy before him anyway.
It's probably true. Obviously, you talk about the future now. That figure out there that they need to make 200 million euros in savings. Some of that, I think, is just a cash flow thing. Yeah. Some of it, obviously, Busquets' wages going and so on. But it doesn't change the fact that whatever savings they need to make, they need to do it with 25% less TV revenue, and because they sold because of the levers that they pulled. Right? For those who don't know, they effectively took a big lump sum of money last summer. Yeah. And sold their rights, sold a chunk of their television rights for the next, the domestic Liga rights for the next X many years. Yeah, that's going to be difficult to do. It's
a challenge again, and I think they could put all those levers last summer to sign Lewandowski and Rafinha and spend that money, and they won't be able to do the same this summer. So for the people who think, oh, let's do again what we did last, it's not, because there's not that many levers available anyway, possibilities.
And even if you could, you'd be screwing up the club in perpetuity.
Right? So you need to sell, first of all. So a Franck Kessie, for example, so Busquets retiring, as you say, I think 39 million euros in wages gone. So this will help. Kessie is going to be sold, Ansu Fati, I suspect, Ferran Torres also. Maybe to Aston Villa, who seems a club that is happy to go and they're happy to pay. I think they bought him for 55 million from City. They need to sell him for 42 to not make a loss, which is a lot of money for someone who's
bringing up amortization.
Yeah,
one of my favorite subjects.
Because otherwise it doesn't make any sense. You could sell Ferran Torres if you want, but if it's at a loss, that is not going to help you to re-sign Lionel Messi, for example.
So what it also tells you is even if you sell him for 50 million, you get the cash, but it's only an 8 million net benefit.
Exactly.
Plus his wages.
Yeah. So it's going to be a challenge. I don't know exactly. They have all those people coming out and being very optimistic publicly, from Laporta to people who work with him. It's all good to be optimistic now, but at the end, it will be down to how effective they are in all that challenge. So be good sellers for the ones they want to sell. Be clever in the ones they want to recruit, because now I say, we're going to go and get Zubimendi to replace Busquets. Okay, good luck. The release clause is 60 million euros. You can't pay and a release clause, by definition, has to be paid in one transfer of money, not through 4 or 5 years, the length of the player's contract. So, I mean, good luck with that. And if on top of that you want to sign Messi or re-sign Messi, then it's even more challenging.
Yeah, I think let's just knock the Messi thing on the head. I mean, we've said before, if there's some way where Messi comes and he costs you very, very little, and he agrees to it and whatever, and it's my last contribution to the club, and obviously Messi would bring in X amount of additional revenue simply by being there, then I think you do it. From a footballing perspective, I'm not sure that, I think adding Messi means that Xavi needs to rip up
completely
the blueprint again.
Completely.
It also means that your two biggest attacking talents are both going to be, 33 and 35 or something like that, right?
And 36 and 33, yeah.
Yeah. So that doesn't bode great either, because you just have to replace them a few years down the road. But equally, I can't imagine, if you can make this work financially in like a real way, with Messi taking a massive, massive pay cut relative to what he was earning before, I don't think Laporta can say no. If Messi comes out and says...
Xavi neither. But would Xavi really want... I mean, I'm thinking, okay, this is happening. Messi resigns. He's party in Barcelona. You're right, Spotify are going to pay more money. Nike are going to pay more money. So, okay, great. You bring more revenue. Where does he play? How do you play as a team? Knowing Messi now, and I've seen him play, I've seen every single of his matches in the last 2 seasons in Paris, and Paris is a very different team. But having watched Barcelona all season together, where does he fit? Like you said, if he's to start from scratch again, to incorporate Messi in the team, that's another challenge as well for Xavi.
And if it brings the Champions League, it's a massive challenge. I mean, that would be interesting. I don't know.
I can't wait to see it, but
I don't know how positive it would be for the club. Leaving Messi to one side, I think there's certain, when you look at this team, and again, credit to Messi, to Xavi, in terms of players that they need to bring in. You mentioned their defensive record was tremendous last year. Yeah. One obvious question: do you keep Koundé at right back, or do you sign a right back and go with that Koundé-Araujo partnership? Because I know Christensen pulled his weight and Marcos Alonso pulled his weight, but these aren't, especially Marcos Alonso, these aren't guys, and Eric Garcia. There's a drop off there, right?
Yeah, but I think the fact that they've extended Marcos Alonso's contract, which needs to be registered, which is not now because they don't have the space in the wage bill, but will be at some point. If they sign Inigo Martinez already from Athletic Club de Bilbao,
which isn't done.
Yeah, but it will be done once they've been able to register him and Sergio Roberto's new contract.
And that means Koundé is your right back for the foreseeable future.
Otherwise, they would not extend Marcos
Alonso. You'll have 5 centre backs, right?
Yeah. So this is clearly what they've chosen to do.
And then Jordi Alba sticks around another year because I'm assuming they'd probably want to move him.
Yeah.
But he's got a contract, right?
Yeah,
so he sticks around to back up Balde.
Yeah.
In midfield, if Kessie goes, and even if he doesn't go, they're probably going to want to bring somebody in because they'll be short because of Busquets.
Yeah. So Zubimendi, I think Zubimendi is a great choice. He's 24. I think he's a wonderful talent. But he costs you 60 million. Again, if you can afford the 60 million, go for him.
And if the other thing is, if Ferran Torres goes, who's your backup center forward?
Yeah, no, and if Ansu Fati goes as well. If you sell the two, which you have to really to make Zubimendi, Messi, plus all the others, then you need at least another player. Although Rafinha, Lewandowski, Messi, Dembele.
If Messi comes,
of course. And you can play Gavi, as we said, slightly higher up the pitch. But you need at least another centre forward. So you go and get Aubameyang again? Which, like the rumours came. Do you go youth in La Masia? Do you go youth in Spain and try to sign like a young striker who's going to be a good kind of backup plan for Lewandowski? I don't know.
So, amidst all this, and I've mentioned this before, but I think it's worth noting again, Matteo Alemany, who kind of made all this work somehow last summer in his role as football director, obviously Jordi Cruyff is a sporting director, he's announced that he's moving on, even though he's a year left on his contract. He's going to help out in the summer and then move on. He's been linked with Aston Villa. It's funny when you mentioned Ferran Torres.
Of course.
I was kind of like thinking, wait a minute, but whatever. I'm sure Villa can figure it out. If these people were so convinced that they're onto a good thing, they wouldn't be leaving, would they?
No, you're right. We mentioned it when the news broke that Aleman was going to Villa and leaving like that. Is it because he's not in agreement with the Messi resigning? I don't know. Is he because he feels like...
Is it because he can do math and he's looked at the levers and said, we won the title, better to get out before...
But maybe also, it must be really tiring to work at a club like Barcelona, one of the biggest greatest club in the world, and having to find ways. In any other club, imagine Chiqui Begaration at City. He doesn't have to go through that. Campos at PSG. I mean, okay, maybe they do the two. Okay, but
not the best example.
Okay, forget those examples. But someone. I mean, even like Liverpool or Arsenal or Real Madrid or Atletico Madrid.
There's a budget. There's a stability.
Yeah, there's okay, this is what you have available. Spend it where you want. Spend it wisely. Not go through okay, we need to let him go and sell it and save on this and save. We can't buy pens this month because we need that money for. It must be tiring. And maybe Aleman was like, I don't want to do 2 summers like that in a row.
I want to end on a positive note. And the reasons to have faith. There's lots of reasons to be scared of the future. Reasons to have faith. I think Xavi's shown this incredible adaptability.
Yeah.
I think you can trust Xavi in the sense that Xavi's intelligent enough to know that if Laporta starts doing something wacky, like selling off more chunks, I think Xavi's going to call him on it. And I think at that point, I think there's enough people now. It's gone so far that there's enough Barcelona people, maybe former board members or whatever, who are around, who are watching this, who understand the situation, right? Title won, whatever, now deliver. Otherwise, the screws turn on Laporta. That's the reason to be positive. The other reason to be positive is, when I go back to La Masia, we've gone on about La Masia, this and that. The reality is, since Busquets and maybe Pedro, they hadn't produced anybody other than Sergio Roberto until this generation comes of Pedri, Gavi, Balde. Doesn't mean there's more people.
Pedro is not La Masia, though.
Well, no, but he came, sorry, Gavi and Balde. He came very young. I mean, Pedro wasn't either. He arrived at 17 technically. But so I do think if they can get that right, that can also tide them over for a while.
And I just think this team is going to get better. Xavi is going to get better as a manager. The disappointment in the Champions League and the Europa League, he will use that to become better. And I think whether they keep the defensive solidity at that level next season, I don't know, because they might want to play a bit more expensive, especially if Messi is here. I don't think if Messi is there, they will be able to be so solid defensively. But I think this team has a great future, and Xavi has a great future ahead of him, because he's going to get better and better. The team will get better. Gavi will get better. Pedri, individually, collectively, which I think is very, very exciting.
And I think certainly within the La Liga sphere, when you consider that, okay, Real Madrid, we don't know who the manager is going to be next season. We don't know if Ancelotti is going to be back. Yeah. We don't know. Obviously, Modric and Kroos another year, Benzema another year. They're not getting any younger.
Yeah.
And Atletico Madrid, while they've been fantastic the last 6 months, they're still, double digits behind them in the table, right? So I think you are pretty well placed. If you make the right moves, you can be successful to get on the pitch. And then it's a case of defending yourself with the lawyers from all these other things, selling well. It's tricky. It's not impossible.
It is.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.